Peace. Hello, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Sista Cypha. We ask that everyone please hit the like button, subscribe, and share. If you would like to contribute to the Sirius Mindz platform, you can hit up Super Chat or you can hit up PayPal or Cash App. So I have with me tonight Miss Carrie, Cat Boogie from the Bronx, Alex
Blessing.
Little, who I'm gonna say Alex Big, and we will have Scorpio 16 joining us in a few minutes. So what's up, ladies? Say hello to the chat room.
Blessings, everyone. Greetings.
Peace, Sirius Mindz family. Peace, Professor Griff.
Yes, thank you, Griff. We just want to tell everyone before we get started that if you don't have it already, please make sure you go get Soleil's new album, Encoded. It's available on all platforms. So it's a heater. I mean, y'all go get the album. It's really hot. I mean, she's bringing the heat. So support Soleil in her album release. And if you want more info, I'll drop the link in the chat room so you can go ahead and download her album. So ladies and gentlemen, tonight, what we'll be focusing on is Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech called The Other America. And basically, he gave this speech at Grosse Pointe High School back in March 14, 1968. And he also delivered the same speech the year before at Stanford University. And I think it's important that we discuss his speech on The Other America because it highlights the very same plights we're experiencing today. I mean, Black Americans still lead the pack when it comes to unemployment and social economical disparities. And, you know, honestly, Black America is still suffering from financial laws, which much of that came under the Obama era. And if you look at the foreclosure crisis and add that up to the home ownership rate, I mean, it's lower now than when this speech was actually given. And so, I mean, we're at a rate of what, 47.7? And that's extremely high in our community. And, you know, Black ownership, as far as homes are concerned, are at the same levels of 1968 when the Fair Housing Act was passed. So here we are 50 years later, and we're still at the same condition. And on top of that, racism still exists. And our people are still being killed by white police officers. And here we are in 2019, getting ready to embark in 2020, and everything that he talked about in this particular speech still reigns true today. So I want to discuss his speech because I think it ties into a lot of what's happening today and also why we need reparations. And I'm going to be reading a passage, a couple of quotes from his speech. And what I'll do is also drop the link of the speech. It's on YouTube. So if you want to, you know, listen to it, you can on your own personal time. But I really think we should tackle this because, again, if we don't address these issues, we're going to always be in the same position as we were 50 years ago and also 50 years from now if we don't address these issues. So I'm going to read from this, and I'm going to get your take on it, ladies. So he opened up by saying, I want to discuss the race problem tonight. I want to discuss it very honestly. I believe that freedom is the bonus you receive for telling the truth. You should know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And I do not see how we are ever to solve the turbulent problem of race confronting our nation until there is an honest confrontation with it and a willing search for the truth and a willingness to admit the truth when we discover it. And so I want to use a title for my lecture tonight, The Other America. And I use this title because there are literally two Americas. Every city in our country has this kind of dualism. This schizophrenia split as so many parts, and so many cities end up being two cities rather than one. There are two Americas. One America is beautiful for situation, And in America, millions of people have the milk of prosperity and the honey of equality flowing before them. This America is the habitat of millions of people who have food and material and necessities of their bodies, culture and education for their minds, freedom and human dignity for their spirits. In this America, children grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But there is another America. This other America has a deadly ugliness about it that transforms the buoyancy of hope into the fatigue of despair. In this other America, thousands and thousands of people, men in particular, walk the streets in search for jobs that do not exist. In this other America, millions of people are forced to live in vermin-filled, distressing housing conditions where they do not have the privilege of having wall-to-wall carpeting, but all too often they end up with wall-to-wall rats and roaches. Almost 40% of the Negro families of America live in substandard housing conditions. In this other America, thousands of young people are deprived of an opportunity to get an adequate education. Every year, thousands finish high school, reading at 7th, 8th, and sometimes 9th grade level. Not because they're dumb, not because they don't have the native intelligence, but because the schools are so inadequate, so overcrowded, so devoid of quality, so segregated, if you will, that the best in these minds can never come out. Probably the most critical problem in the other America is the economic problem. There are so many other people in the other America who can never make ends meet because their incomes are far too low if they have any income. Their jobs are so devoid of quality, and so this is the other America. Unemployment is a reality, and underemployment is a reality. I'll just wait until things are restored, and if everybody talks about law and order, one of the most critical problems we face in America is unemployment. So ladies, I want to get your take on this because again, he opened up his speech about the other America, and he basically talked about the differences between those who quote unquote prosper in milk and honey, and he used a lot of like biblical comparisons between Black America and white America. And basically what I found so profound about his speech is that everything that he talked about is literally happening today. So I want to get your take on his opening statement, and then we're going to dive deeper into it and discuss what he basically talked about. So what's your take on it, ladies?
Well, he's absolutely right. What he discussed 50 years ago, I agree. Sadly, but sure, there is a disproportion of resources among the races, with Black and white. There seems to be in certain community a lack of resources, services, even with education and housing in itself. You see in my community, there's a higher rate of homelessness. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to us addressing the issue, we tend to, sadly again, to focus more on those who are well off and give them everything that they need so they could sustain their livelihood. And we tend to look at everyone else as the other. Those that are homeless is their problem, is their issue. So we're not going to focus on that. So sometimes we do see how that affects us as a community because we're trying to keep our families together as a whole. So it's everything that he stated 50 years ago, it does continue. It still exists. And we still have people in power who don't seem to realize that those who live in these type of community, urban settings or whatever, we need the help. And why do we tend to vote for things that is not going to help those in those communities? Why are we not giving the resources that we need so we can be self-sufficient? I mean, it's still going on to this day.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely correct. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Alex, what's your take on it?
Peace. I agree with Carrie. I happened to catch a small clip of that actual speech prior to this conversation. I want to go back tonight, this evening, when I get centered and settled at work and listen to it in its entirety. What I will say from the commentary that you shared with the chat room, and what I took from that is when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave the speech and when he talked about the sunshine of opportunity in one America, and then he talked about also the clouds of inferiority in the other America. He was using it in the context of a child's arena of the mindset. So when you have one set of children or people or population who have endless opportunities, that's their basking of the sun. And then you got a whole nother set, which is the other America, which is clouds of inferiority, you know, not the same playing field, playing level. That's the main issue that we got to take into account. And another thing that he mentioned that I thought was really beneficial to talk about in this conversation is when he spoke about what we need to do is, instead of people being so upset about the beatings and the killings and the shootings, be as upset of the lack of opportunity for that economic benefit, such as equal housing, equal pay, equal access. So when we can become everybody as upset as, you know what I'm saying, the foul play, that's when real change will happen too. So I just admire Dr. Martin Luther King. He was very calm and very poised, and when you watch his speeches, he was just, you know, very dignified. And I think that it's a wonderful opportunity that we get to talk about this and replay and learn from it. So.
It's like the dignity and just the grace that he had when he spoke in any crowd or any audience, you know, it's definitely missing today. I don't see that much. Like, there's a different aura about him when he spoke. It's like he was very stern, but yet graciously humble, but he still got his point across. And it's like he rang the alarm, but he said it so graciously that, you know, you were just like drawn to him, like you just had to pay attention. So that's one thing that I do appreciate about him as a great, you know, speaker and leader. So yeah, that's definitely missing today. I don't see that as much. But I definitely want to go into what he talked about when it's concerning like unemployment. And he basically said that the most critical problem that we face in America today is unemployment. And he basically said that it's constantly rising to astronomical proportions, and Black people are generally finding themselves literally in depression. So basically he tied in the mental health to this, and, you know, not having opportunity and what that does to us as a people and how it makes us go into, you know, depression. And he said that, you know, all too often when there is mass unemployment in the Black community, it's referred to as a social problem. But when it's a mass unemployment in the white community, it's referred to as depression. You get what I'm saying? So back then he basically was saying that, no, it's like we share the same issues. If it's, you know, depression in the white community, it also affects us the same very way. And he was like, you know, there's no difference. You know, it's not having opportunity creates depression, you know. And as you know, a lot of people, like when we had the crash back in 2008, you had high rates of like suicide. And I mean, it's no different than today. As you said, Alex, Carrie, I'm sorry. There's a lot of people, particularly Black people, especially veterans, who are experiencing homelessness. And it's because they don't have the housing, they don't have the employment to help them get housing and to pay for just basic necessities. So ladies, I want to get your take on it, the idea of how he tied in mental health with not having opportunities. What's your take on it, ladies?
Absolutely. In order to get that job, become employed, to help your family, to take care of your children, you have to have that mental stability. You have to have everything. For some individual, in order to get everything together, they have to have pride in themselves. They have to have hands together. And if you strip one or the other away, of course you're going to have people who are going to develop mental illness. It's a given. Sometimes you raise one way and you see your father working every day and all of a sudden he becomes unemployed. Then there goes the family dynamics. You have some men who can hold it together, and then you have those they pry. You have those who not find job easily. That's when that true America comes into play. You can have someone that doesn't look like you be able to walk in with a high school diploma, and guess what? He'll be making 50,000. When it comes to us, to struggle twice as hard just to flip a burger sometime, just to have that front intake of receptionist position. So it's not fair. And of course, mental illness, that drives a part of it. If you cannot do anything yourself for your family, guess what? You're going to be ill. You're going to have that feeling like, you know, you're worthless. And that's what happens. The mental illness and the unemployment does tie together. It does. And from my experience, I see everybody on my caseload or my case patterns when they work, usually when you have someone that's unemployed, guess what? Sometimes it's some underlying issues. And if we don't address that, they go down a slippery slope. Empowerment and loving yourself does unfortunately tie in with finances, being able to help yourself become self-sustained and hold your family together. And if you strip one of those away, that damaged the whole family dynamics from what I've been in this field, social services field.
Great points, Carrie. Great points. I absolutely agree with you on this. What's your take on it, Alex?
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, Quan, too, when you mentioned how, why is it when the Black community has economic crises, it's treated as a social issue, yet, you know, when you look at America overall, in the 1920s, it was the Great Depression. You know, it was treated with such more valuable, like monumental importance, and it was a devastation. You know, but when it comes to our community, it just doesn't seem that important. I don't know why, but for some reason, when you mentioned Dr. Martin Luther King speaking about unemployment being the greatest threat, it made me think back to Candace Owens speaking about literacy rates, abortion, and fatherless homes. And not to pick on her, I think those three things are important, but why isn't economic stability at the forefront for our people right now in America with these same issues that our great Dr. Martin Luther King talked about? And not only that, but when we talk about labor, what type of job? We're not talking fast food here. And I'm not knocking people that utilize fast food for income for where they are. I worked in the food industry for a long time. Are we talking about access to solid jobs? Okay, are we talking about access to solid housing? So it just makes me wonder, what are the real statistics right now in regards to labor to the Black community here in America? Like, I want to know these things. I want to do some research and get an annual review. I know Michael Imhotep, he talks about it and stuff like that. And also, too, in regards to the mental health portion, Dr. Joy DeGroy-Leary speaks on that. You know, we have traumas embedded in us from, you know, slavery and Jim Crow laws. And in addition to that trauma that's in our DNA that comes out subconsciously, because all behavior serves a purpose, being underprivileged in America without equality still is a fighting force. And that chronic stress leads to anxiety. So, I mean, there's a lot of different issues, but I think it's on point for Dr. Martin Luther King. The way he gave that speech, he addressed it in Stanford. He was very articulate, and the things that he said are still things that happen today in regards to economy. Where are we economically? Because the jobs that we have, what are they producing? Because that's something important. Is it creating Black wealth?
So I want to read this right quick. So he also said that, and let me get to it. He said, the unemployment rate in the Negro community probably goes to 16 or 17%. And among Black youth, it is in some communities as high as 40 to 45%. But the problem of unemployment is not the only problem. There is the problem of the underemployment. And there are thousands and thousands, I would say millions of people in the Negro community who are poverty stricken, not because they are not working, but because they receive wages so low that they cannot begin to function in the mainstream of the economic life of our nation. So the vast majority of Negroes in America find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. This has caused a great deal of bitterness, and it has caused a great deal of agony, and it has caused ache and anguish. It has caused great despair, and we have seen the angered expressions of these despair. And I just was looking at his numbers, and honestly, we're still at 8%. Like, out of any other group, racial group, we still hold the highest numbers of unemployment in America. And, you know, honestly, again, his numbers is not far off from our numbers. And it's just, I'm just hearing him saying, it's like we're basically the underbelly of America. And a lot of people use us as a stepping stone to not only pour out their burdens, but also to create their wealth. That's why you see a lot of these jobs are what we would call labor force jobs. That's not really something that you can move up the ladder. So basically you're helping corporations and individuals get more rich, but you're not necessarily creating the wealth or minimizing the racial wealth gap in America. So I want to get your take on this, ladies, because I thought that was just so interesting that here it is 50 years ago, he's discussing these numbers. And honestly, with all the prosperity in the United States, there should be no, and I do mean no, like unemployment. There should be no poverty because, again, compared to a lot of other countries, America is one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. You know, as far as like creating opportunities and wealth, we have the most millionaires of any other country. You know, and a lot of that did come under the Obama era, may I add. But I want to get your take on it, ladies, because again, he talked about the bitterness that this is causing among the Black community. And I still see it today. People are bitter. They're pissed off. They're mad that, hey, it's like the analogy Tupac gave. He was like, you know, we hungry. And you're knocking on the door and you see everybody just choking back wine and eating food and just having a joyous time. And eventually, you know, it's going to get to the point, instead of asking, they're going to start, you know, robbing and killing and doing whatever because we don't have. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to get your take on it, ladies, and on how you feel about this whole idea of having this anger and bitterness because we're not being provided opportunities.
Well, I do feel sometimes upset with the individuals. Once again, I'm gonna go back to the job that I have, social services, sitting in front of me, and they don't know how to navigate the system so they can get themselves the jobs that they need. Because you're gonna have people who probably on this chat line or in general tell you, so why don't they just get up and go get that job? But guess what? Sometimes they don't have the resources. They don't have that resources in their community to help them, to help navigate getting a job, getting dressed for an interview. So we do see it's between like the have and the have not. If you do not give certain people the tools that they need so they could do whatever they have to do to stand on their own 2 feet, then they're not going to do it. Sometimes you got to motivate them. And then you have a system where it was designed to give people a check every month, and then they become complacent, and they don't want to do things for themselves. So you have certain system that deals with people that, you know what, just get that check a month. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of your rent. We'll take care of your light bill. So I believe in helping those get out of that system. I believe that you can do whatever you have to do in order to help yourself and not live under government, you know, wings. But you have to empower those people. So he's absolutely right. There's stuff out there that is not given to us. That's why I stated earlier, there's a disproportionate amount of resources that are going out for our people in our community. There's services that we don't have that the others have. They do label us as social problems. For them, it's just something that happens. They're going to put a Band-Aid on it and get over it. For us, they use us as guinea pigs. Let's do a study on them. Let's see what's going to happen in 10 years from now. So he's right. They do treat us differently. And if we don't look to help ourselves, this is going to be an ongoing thing. It's not going to go away overnight. And I take mental health very seriously. I don't know if we could put down, there's places in case somebody on the chat is going through something or have mental health problems, you can always call SAMHSA is for mental health. The number is 1-877-726-4727 for anyone who might know somebody who's going through unemployment or have any social problems that they're dealing with. Go ahead, Alex.
It's before you go in, we will discuss, he did talk about how he was approached by a white man who was obviously an immigrant, and he talked about this whole bootstrap, mentality or philosophy about pulling yourself up by the boot. So we are going to discuss that because, I think that's an interesting contrast of how a lot of people see us. Like, why don't you just pull your goddamn self up by your bootstraps? So we're going to get into that. But Alex, what's your take on it?
What I will say is, I think one of the things that Dr. Martin Luther King mentioned in this speech that we can all Google or watch on YouTube in the chat room, the speech, The Two Americas, he talked about America being the home of the exiles. And he talked about European exiles and the difference between European exiles and African exiles. And he talked about, the Watts riots and things of that nature and protests in New York from our people. But that was in a symptom of the treatment received here in America. So when you got California house closing acts and, things that strip our opportunity to be equal and have a solid foundation to abide on, then there's consequences where there are protests that might not be nonviolent. What I'm saying is, he mentioned how instead of allowing Negroes in America free housing that's adequate, not vermin rat infested, slum homes, they gave the European exiles and immigrants all that land to the west so they can have an economical, safe, adventure, manifest destiny, a come up. So it's not so easy. And you can't just say, hey, well, my granddaddy built this business off the sweat of his back and the straps of his boots. Well, didn't Dr. John Henrik Clark say you stole our boots, bastard? How about that? And not only that, but it doesn't go like that with all the exiles and the immigrants here in America. And yes, when you're talking about Polish and Irish and Jewish and Italian, and then the Negro American, quote unquote, who had opportunity before everybody? The European immigrant. So it's not like, today everybody can say, oh, well, we have equal laws, equal rights. We'll give equal access. And there's so many stipulations and so many bills that are rejected that keep denying that. So, again, I think Dr. Martin Luther King, he went in. All his speeches are glorious. He had integrity. I think we can review it and see where his strategy can be continued and added upon.
Mm-hmm. So you said, so you went into basically how America, or should I say the federal government, literally gave away free land, and they called it the Homestead Act. You guys can look it up and research it on your own time. But basically what the federal government did, like poor white immigrants, many who were farmers, they basically gave away acres, not just a little plot, acres of land.
Yeah.
Gave them opportunities, and unfortunately, our land was stolen from us. Unfortunately, we didn't get those opportunities. So you're absolutely correct, Alex. Like, I mean, in a lot of ways, they were spoon-fed some of the wealth. Although we did build this country, don't get that twisted. I mean, we helped build the wealth of this country because what we did was provided free labor. And that free labor allowed a lot of these slave owners to basically accrue like a lot of wealth. And, again, just hearing him speak about it, and just, it's so sad. It's so sad what we as a people have been through. And I'm all about conflict resolutions, right? Resolution solutions, if you will. Like, but to me, just hearing him talk about this, but just noticing what's going on now, because again, piggyback to the idea of them getting the Homestead Act. And years ago, they did redlining. And on top of that, they had predatory loans that they issued out to the Black community. And that still exists today. You know what I'm saying? And you still, in certain zip codes, if you put in, you're going to more than likely get a predatory loan from these banks and corporations. Or you may pay higher for a home that's not really worth what it's really worth. And it's sad, and it's just, I just want us to come up with a solution of how to combat that. You know what I'm saying, ladies? Like, I think there's a solution for it, but we always have this kind of reactive reactionary type mentality. It's like we get beat upon, spit on, and stomped on, and it's like we are forced to kind of react instead of being proactive to try to prevent this. Because honestly, I don't have kids, but I don't want my children to experience what is going on in today's, current climate.
Absolutely.
I don't want, you get what I'm saying? Like, I just, what's your thoughts on it, ladies? Because again, just looking at the mere fact that they gave away free land to immigrants coming into this country, I'm all for everybody having an opportunity, right?
Me too.
Everybody should have an opportunity because, again, just like I'm getting mine, you should be able to get yours. But a lot of our resources are being depleted and given away because you're, quote unquote, you fall under this minority status or, quote unquote, people of color. That's why I don't like to use that term as much because that could be any damn body.
That's
hell,
right.
A minority could be a goddamn midget. You get what I'm saying? Like, it could be anybody. So, things like affirmative action and all these other SBA loans that we are supposed to benefit from, but we don't anymore. So I want to get your take on it, ladies.
Alex, you want to go first?
Yeah, sorry about that. What I will say is we need to be very specific about terminology because POC, person of color, that includes many different things. And what we're speaking upon right now is the African American community. Again, I think that a lot has been stolen. A lot of legacy has been removed. And earlier, Quan, in the opening comment, you mentioned reparations. I think that what we can do right now, while we attempt to get external reparations, work internally on love and self-respect for ourselves and each other so we can build each other up. And in addition to that, come together, start being more kind and loving to one another, and start figuring out how to increase our own economical situation by buying Black, spending Black, and really doing research, do more research. And again, too, when we talk about these European immigrants who've come to America and who have benefited off of Black labor that was forced and enslaved, these people have not lost touch with their culture. They have a heartbeat and a pulse to identify with within their familial structure. So I think, too, that in addition to the internal reparations that we do with self-reflection and learning and having awareness of an Afrocentric theology and understanding who we are pre-colonialism, we'll be more free mentally. As far as reparations here in America, we can't make nobody give us nothing. I'm down for it. I'm down for ADOS. I'm down for Pan-Africanism. I'm buy Black, be Black all day, Black empowerment. However, while we wait and work towards that, we have to do something each day, each moment. And this dialogue is so important in this platform because Professor Griff breaks it down. And as far as another thing that Dr. Martin Luther King said too, in regards to them giving the white immigrants all that land and once again denying Negro Americans, which the Constitution protects. My question is why? Why the mindset of racism? And he also said it was an anthropological affirmation that these white racists use to affirm their belief structure. That's not even scientific or real. Why do you feel the need to rape, pillage, destroy, oppress, denounce, and kill? Because, quote unquote, MLK did say that racism's ideology in the end result is genocide. What type of mindset is that?
Fear of a Black planet. Who's quoted by saying that? Is it red pill or blue pill?
Hey, both the pills. And Dr. Francis Cress Wesseling,
Dr. Francis Cress Wesseling, Dr. Neely Fuller Jr., like all of them. That if you go back and research any of these folks I just named, you'll have a better understanding of why they have this fear. At the end of the day, you just have to understand the psychological mindset of these people. See, we cut from a different cloth. We don't think like that. We're not thinking, oh, let me genocide a whole entire nation of people. We don't have that mindset. Our mindset at the gate is, let me love on you. Let me nourish you. Let you, understand? Like, that's our mindset. Like, but we don't have this, let's destroy, let's, discredit and, demonize and all that. No, we don't have that kind of mindset. We're more like, let me love on you after all that we have been through.
Right.
All that we have been through to this day. And I don't know if religion has a major part to do with it, but maybe it does. But we have this, let's forgive and love. Unfortunately, the majority of our people, that's the mindset that we have. Let's forgive. It's okay. We done been through hell and back in high water. Let's forgive our oppressor. You know,
Right.
some people they want to take a different approach. You know, let's do them how they do me. You know, eye for an eye type of mentality. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, they do it. And my issue with it is, why do we keep allowing it? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it going to take for us to stop this? At what point are we going to meet that threshold whereas this is no longer an issue? Yes, racism will always exist, but how can we combat this right now? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's my mindset. Whenever I'm looking at a problem, it's like, okay, how can we fix this today? I guess it's just the architect in me. I'm just trying to solve the problem that's in front of me today. But it's just, you know, I don't know. Am I too far to the left, ladies? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's
Absolutely, yeah.
my point. Hey, real quick, too, I want to say, too, you're pointing to the ICE, I-C-E, the individualistic, competitive, exploitative type mindset that Dr. Leonard Jeffries Jr. talks about. And it's real because that individualistic, me, the competitive, not you, exploitative is going to keep a people and population oppressed, suppressed, denied, and that ultimately is the mindset is, I will kill you for my survival. You cannot live with me. And that mindset needs to be put at the forefront. So maybe we need to inspect that mindset and say, hey, this is what we're working with. Let me understand where I'm at, what I'm operating in, my portion in it, and what I can do to get through it and navigate while I come out of it. And that's where we need to be.
Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, for me, I agree with both you and Quan and Alex. And from my standpoint, you're absolutely right. I mean, what can we do to come out of it? But you have to also realize that we felt, many of us, defeated. We feel fearful. I mean, some of us we talked about this several times, don't even want to, we want to be at our comfort zone. We don't want to go beyond or speak out because sometimes we don't want to feel that repercussion that they're going to take things away from us. But as a people, we have been discriminated against. There has been racial separation, cultural control. This is all a form of control. And it starts from, like you stated, we have to get together and figure out what can we do besides running to the oppressor and a colonizer and asking them for help. We don't need their help anymore. We're at a point that we need to do our things for ourselves in order to, like Byron Island, Queen, what's her name? Monique. We need to be more like them, outspoken, and take control into our hands. That's the only way we want to do it. If not, we're going to still talk about this 20 years later, unfortunately.
So Martin Luther King Jr. basically said that, you know, he is basically committed to militant, powerful, massive nonviolence as a part, or basically as a tool to kind of weaponize, you know, the Black community and combating a lot of the issues when it comes to, you know, racism and, you know, economical disparities, that kind of thing. And I guess what I want to know is, like, do you think using those type of tactics will work in today's culture? Because in my opinion, the only thing that seems to move or scare white supremacy is the loss of money and the loss of life. You know, but he was all about non-violence. And I think towards the end of his life, he was like more moving towards the mindset of like Malcolm X. He was like, yeah, I'm for this militant thing, you know, I'm for like massive thing, but I want it to be non-violent. And to me, it's like, yeah, we've been protesting for long enough and it doesn't seem to be changing anything. So it's like insanity to keep repeating the same crap over and over again and expecting a different result.
Absolutely.
So I just want to know, like, in this current atmosphere, do you think having this humble, non-violent type of mentality is going to help us to kind of combat racism and all these other issues in our communities? What's your take on it, ladies?
No, I believe in making noise. We at an age where technology, you can post something up real quick, sign a petition, get the word out. Sometimes you just got to make noise. Back then, I'm not trying to disrespect his movement, but we was trying to get the word across, and we had to do it by going to churches, getting together, form a community. Now, technology plays a role in making changes, making bills turn left to right, amendments, we have to be more vocal. So I'm more with just for the forefront, getting out there, doing what we have to do, make noise, not just, you know, nonviolent. I'm not with that. I'm more like, whatever I got to do, I'm going to do.
Okay, Alex, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I agree. What I will say is I will never knock, and not that anyone on this conversation did or is, but if anyone in the chat thinks to themselves that MLK was weak or his strategy didn't work or why are we still doing, what I will say is I will never knock what he did because he opened the door for other people like the students who were nonviolent, who had their own thing going on. You know, Kwame Ture, you know what I'm saying? That came from that with Ella Baker talking about students being involved and the youth being involved. So just Dr. Martin Luther King alone with his image and being strong and dignified and empowering for our people gave other mindsets the ability to say, me too. How can I coordinate a committee and be a voice for my community and my people? And I think that marching is a strategy, protesting is a strategy, but it's only meant for a moment and a way. There needs to be different tactics employed to continue the momentum, to get the free equality that we are born with, God-given, and here to have just as everybody else. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's always a thought to leave America. If everybody left this bitch, it'd be, you know, what would happen in 10 years? Think about that.
And also, we getting to an age where a lot of people don't gravitate to what the church says. You have a lot of people that go to church on a regular basis. So we don't go back to how we used to be. Most of us don't go to church on a regular basis. Most of us don't believe. We have different religion out there. So it's going to be a little more different nowadays as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, going back to what I just stated, there's only two things that move white supremacy. Loss of money and loss of life. So I just honestly, I don't encourage anyone to do any violence. So don't say, Griff had them Cypha chicks promoting violence. No, we're not saying that. But what I am saying is that you do have to fight for your cause. And if that means coming off your square and putting a person in their damn place or doing whatever you have to do, hey, so be it. But no, there are ways strategically that we can approach this. But again, you know, we have to weaponize ourselves as far as the information is concerned and how we use this information to employ the masses. And when I say employ the masses, meaning encourage people to put a fire under their ass and do something different. Like this whole social, you know, this whole social media kind of protesting thing, that to me, that's just, that doesn't do anything for our community. Because for the next week or the next couple of days, give it 3 days. I say 3 days top, and we're moving on to the next goddamn protest. Fake outrage. So what I'm saying is, basically, we just need to change our approach to how we've been dealing with things. And again, we need to employ the masses so we can use this information to kind of make a drastic change to what's already been happening. That's what I'm saying, folks. So I'm not encouraging you to go kill somebody or stab somebody or do something violent to them. But what I am saying is, if you are cross wrong, if you got to come off your square, then hey, the gloves got to come off. That's what I am saying. So what I do want to discuss is, we did discuss bootstrapping, correct, ladies? The bootstrapping policy?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you phrase that too. I like how you phrase, the approach. That was very beneficial. I like that.
Hold on. Can you speak a little louder? I'm having a little difficulty.
I'm sorry about that. I said
Go ahead.
I like how you rephrase that instead of revise our approach. That was perfectly put.
Yes, absolutely. Because again, the whole point of this platform is we want to open minds, but we also want to be able to strategize and give you solutions so that you can take it to your communities and make a difference. That's ultimately my goal. I'm quite sure Griff shares the same, mentality when it comes to this, but that's what we are hoping to do. We're not just doing this for entertainment. We are trying to come to a resolve with a lot of the things that we discuss. So next, he basically talked about, reprioritizing, how we solve issues in the U.S. And he talked about how the U.S. spends about $35 billion a year to fight what I consider, or what he considered, an unjust, ill-considerate, evil, costly, unwinnable war at Vietnam. And to me, this kind of ties into the argument about reparations, because there are many in the dominant society who says, well, we don't have the money for reparations. But if you look at all the wars we are currently fighting and the billions of dollars spent each day on them, I would say that the money can be reallocated to reparations, in my opinion. But America, they would never go for that. And why? Simply because, that's how they control the world. That's how they make their profits. Trump requested, and this was what, in 2018? 639 billion with a B. B as in boy, B as in Billy, in defense spending for the military for the fiscal year. And, that includes what? New weapons, overseas operations, 2.1% goes to the, pay raise for troops. And, next year, he's requesting $623 billion, which is, from my research, the equivalent of $17.7 trillion on the GDP. And, honestly, I'm just, looking at this, and that he's been talking that instead of the $623 billion, he wants to increase it to $989 billion by next year. So that's like an extra $300 billion going just to military. I'm just like, so your argument, just like MLK was saying, it's like you're basically fighting, all of these different wars, which is basically unjust, ill-considerate, evil, costly, unwinnable, because you have these ongoing wars, and it's like, oh, we fighting terror, and we fighting this, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, that's money that could be coming to us. Because the last I checked, the reparations, they said we're owed 17 trillion. So what if we reallocated some of that military funds and issue that out to reparation? That damn sure would help with the racial wealth gap, that's for sure. So I want to get your take on this, ladies, because he did go into this, and he did talk about the problem of what our national priorities is. And in the U.S., when it comes to priorities, military and funding wars is at the very top of that list. So I want to get your take on it, ladies.
Carrie, do you mind if I go real quick?
Yeah, no problem. I'm not with the war. You're absolutely right. For some reason, we tend to spend our money trying to, regulate other countries and kill people off. And we can use that money internally to help us, our community, and stuff like that. So I'm with Dr. Martin King Jr. when he stated those things. Why do we tend to, mine is more questions. Why do United States of America tend to invest in getting wealth from other countries? And we know the answer is to bring back whatever resources that other country have, because we have a tendency to be greedy and bring it back to us, but it doesn't trickle down to our people. It stays with the elites and make them more wealthy. So I'm with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We need to focus on something different, but I'm not sure if that's going to change overnight. It has been going on for centuries, for years, and it's not going to stop today, tomorrow. Unfortunately, my concern, like I stated earlier, is the resources. If we can use that money to help build up our people. We do have a tendency to look at others and help them out, the immigrants and everybody else, no offense to anyone, but we do. We take that money that we deserve for ourselves to help our community, to help our people. And that's where I come in with the disproportion of income, the resources and everything else. I want that to change. And I want that to end, period. So what he stated, 50 years, is still happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Happening now. And,
Go ahead, baby. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Just imagine if we spent $989 billion on homelessness or creating jobs. Can you imagine what that would do for the economy? $989 billion. Now that's like a little, 10 billion less than $1 trillion? That's a lot of doggone money. That's a lot of households and people being fed and blah, blah. Okay, go ahead, Alex. I'm off my soapbox.
No, it's okay.
No, it's great. It's great. And sorry I cursed earlier. I try to keep it appropriate. Carrie, I like what you added to the conversation. And one of the things you said was resources. We are the resource. We have to see that. And it's almost like it's the mindset. Why so many military expenses for external warfare when there's an internal problem with the house being on fire? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, with all the thousands on Skid Row, there's only 3 toilets. What are we doing telling anybody else how to run anything of theirs? This country needs to focus on its own people. But that's a whole other topic. But in regards to this conversation, in regards to Black economics, we got to do the research, y'all. We got to study. We got to get diligent. We got to pay attention to our elders, pay attention to different materials. We got to start reading and not be lazy. I mean, in addition to everything, we got to put in work too. And as Carrie said, 50 years later, here we are with the numbers still being high. Access, the sunshine of opportunity. Is that what we have right now? With Trump being in office, there's a lot of Black Americans who are pro-Trump. And I question them. I really question some of the tactics and the things that have been written out that aren't talked about in regards to economic stability for our people. So
It's interesting that you say that, like, because he did discuss that we don't have a lot of time. And he said one of the myths is that we have time. And he's basically saying, like, no, we don't have time. And, you know, people are basically saying, like, you know, slow down, you pushing too fast, and, you know, you have time to solve this problem. And right now, the statistics does not support that. I mean, if we keep at the rate that we're going, like, you think the unemployment and homeless rate is high now. If we continue at this rate, at this trajectory rate, we are going to have a massive amount of homelessness, you know, basically people without jobs. Like, so time is of the essence. It's like ring the alarm. It's like everybody, every family, every household, when it comes to the Black community, Moors, melanated, ADOS, Foundation of Black Americans, Hebrewites, whatever you want to call yourselves at this current day and time. At the end of the day, we all should be concerned. Time is of the essence. And I was so glad that he brought that up, because it's like we walk around like as if, oh, we just got nothing but time, and time is going to change. You know, eventually, whenever time is ready to change itself, it's going to change. We okay, we're complacent with just being okay. It's like, no, you don't have a lot of time. No, you should be very much alarmed. Like, this is not going away anytime soon. So we got to come up with some solutions. You know, we have to deal with this now. So I want to get your take on it, ladies, about this whole idea of running out of time, and, you know, how can we handle it today when it comes to this? How can we get this message out to the folks to let them know, hey, time is of the essence? It's like they do in the church when they tell you, oh, you don't have much time. You got to get saved. You got to get saved. You got to get saved now. You don't have much time. It's like we should have that same kind of
mentality,
Yes, with you know, the idea of our current economical state. Like, it's important. It's hella important. So I want to get your take on it, ladies.
Well, I'm like, I appreciate what Alex said earlier. You have to do your research. Like I said earlier, there's books out there on this platform alone. We had workshop, Quan, you did, with how we can open our companies, our businesses. We have to share the wealth, the knowledge, keep it moving in circles, so that way everyone can get a piece of the pie. Although we don't have resources in the neighborhood, we can look up things and see, you know what, this might benefit me. I qualify for this. And sometimes that's what they do, the media. If you realize, no one knows about this speech. We only know about the I have a dream speech. The media has a way of controlling and making sure that what they put out there is going to make us feel like, oh, we need them. But if you do your research, if you look at YouTube, they have all these types of videos nowadays where you can help improve your living situation. You can go out there and get a job. You can go out there and try to see how you can, you know, successfully do well in that interview. We have to boost each other up. Our empowerment strategy has to increase. And then when maybe not all of us, but most of us will be able to get out of that pigeonhole that they have. because this is a new year. There's a lot of information out there. So I would say do your research. And speak up. Speak up and join whatever you have to join in order to help others. Don't just keep that information for yourself. Spread the knowledge.
Or if you got to be a lone wolf, because sometimes you got to go by yourself sometimes.
That's true,
you know?
as well, Quan.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it can be a lonely process, and it can be daunting, but it's so rewarding. I think just the wanting and the self-awareness to want better for yourself. And when you get in that space, people will gravitate towards you with the same ideologies of Black empowerment, Black efficacy, Black love, Black respect, self-awareness. It is so important. And that pride is not racist. It's a culture, and it's an intuitive appreciation of who we are and who we've always been. And celebrating that is beautiful. So this platform, again, is so important because it can be enriched and engaged and take home what we've discussed and learned and listen and apply it in minute ways until that big end result manifests. And it does seem like there's a sense of urgency. You know, time is passing. And just like you said, Juan, come up to the altar right now. You know what I'm saying? The time, he's coming. You know, that same sense of urgency needs to be logically manifested in our life with our choices, with our actions. And I know for me, I didn't want to read for a very long time. I used to hate reading. And now I enjoy it. I love to discover who we were prior to America. You know, get on YouTube, listen to audiobooks, Google Queen Amina, Google Queen Navinga. You know, our ancestry, that's real. Jetnas, warriors, that's who we are. So just keep researching, stay encouraged. Dr. Martin Luther King is a wonderful example of Black excellence, African pride, and just keep moving forward, right where you are, wherever you are. I'm very encouraged. I appreciate you ladies. When you come on here, I learned something new. And mental health is important. What we eat, how we sleep, what we listen to, how we think about ourselves, it plays a huge role in who we become, and our children are watching. So keep that in mind too.
So we're going to close this out, but before we do, I do want to discuss the takeaways, right? Because I always believe in ending on a positive note. I don't want you to be despair and feeling all gloom and, oh my God, they're talking about all this. No, we want you to feel encouraged. So, you know, honestly, I think for one, we need reparations, right? To close the racial wealth gap. So there are groups out there who are basically pushing the efforts for reparations like ADOS, and that's American Descendants of Slaves, or some people like to say slavery. You know, I think we need more jobs, more job training, and more good jobs at that. Jobs that are going to lead to the executive positions. You know, we need more businesses. You know, we need to start our own. That's key. Ownership is key. You know, I'm going to coin it and scream that, and you're probably going to hear this on every other session, because I think it's important. Ownership, just like home ownership is important, business ownership is just as important, because you're going to be creating a legacy that you can take care of your family, help your community, and leave a legacy behind. And I think also police and prison reform is needed. You know, we definitely need to combat all these killings, all these race soldiers, you know, everything that's happening. But that begins at the poll. That begins with contacting your local representatives, your local politicians, and voicing your concerns. Because if you're not voicing your concerns, they don't see it as a problem. You get what I'm saying? Yes. And so, you know, that's where we need to start. And we also need affordable housing. We need to be able to advocate for that with affordable housing. You know, HUD provides Section 8 and affordable housing and everything. But if you are in a position to flip houses and provide rental houses that is an affordable rate in your community, then do that. That's the solution. Do that. If you can provide somebody with you know, rent at a cheaper rate as opposed to going to their counterpart and still being in their community, that's a solution. You can flip a house for little to nothing. You know, it's ways of doing it. You know, and then also affordable education on a secondary level. You know, we need better schools for our youth. You know, and if that means you going and running for a school board office or position, then do that if you're not satisfied with the education system in your community. That's where it starts. I look at people like Scarface, Chad is what he call himself now since he's running for city council in Houston. But, you know, he basically the ghetto boys. He was rapping with the ghetto boys. You know what he's doing? He got tired of the conditions and he ran for office. And you know what? He is currently like in a runoff right now. These are how we tackle these issues, ladies and gentlemen. Right. This is how we do this. You get what I'm saying? So there's a ton, I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but I do want to provide these solutions because I want you to see that, you know what, it's not an end all be all. It's not the end. We still have time. We still can make a change with a lot of the things that is occurring in our communities. I mean, we do have solutions, but the problem is we need to be collective in our efforts. It can't just be a one-man show. It has to be collective because our energy, I'm telling you, it's going to send a ripple effect. All it takes is a group or a handful of people to really start making change. The rest will fall in line. Ladies, do you have any solutions that you want to offer or any last minute comments that you want to add to the platform as far as this, you know, topic is concerned?
I mean, you said everything in a nutshell for me. My concern as well, don't be afraid for anybody on the chat line or if you know anyone, chat room, excuse me. Get the help that you need if you have going through anything, mental illness, depression, because we have to start with that as well. Many of our relative or family members who are going through things in silence. So we also have to point out that mental illness plays a role. As Alex and Quan have stated, this has been going on since the time they took us from our home and brought us here to work for free. So, I mean, we can't forget that. We have been through trauma, a lot of traumas. And I just want everybody to reach out to someone. If you see someone alone, quiet, or not doing well, check on them. Check on them and just make sure they're okay.
Great point. Great point. Alex, you have any solutions you'd like to offer?
Just stay encouraged, trust your intuition, do your research, get familiar with our ancestry and who we are and have always been. And this is always a wonderful opportunity. Sirius Mindz family, I love you. Professor Griff, thank you. This is, y'all, you guys are everything to me. So I'm just encouraged with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, family. Again, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share. If you want to contribute to the platform, you can hit up the Super Chat, you can hit up PayPal or Cash App. You can join us every Tuesday and Thursday. If you'd like to participate with Sista Cypha, I'll drop the email where you can email us and let us know. It's not just a girl thing, a woman thing, a lady thing, chick thing, broad thing. We would like the men to participate too as well, to get your feedback. So if you want to participate, let us know. We're just talking about serious topics casually. So don't get intimidated. I mean, again, we're just trying to put the message out there and offer solutions. So if you want to participate, let us know. Again, thank you, Professor Griff. Please make sure you go get Soleil's new album, Encoded. It's available on all platforms. So if you want to download it, go ahead and check Soleil's album out. Support the Queen Soleil. So thank you. Ladies, you want to say peace and goodbye to the chat room?
Peace. Have a blessed night.
Peace, everyone. Rest well. Take care.
All right. Peace. Have a good night.